In this video, I really want to talk about this bait right here. This is a little bit newer bait to the US market. I believe it's called a quake. I may be saying that wrong, but let me know down below in the comments, which I'm sure that you guys will. But this is a bait. I know it looks crazy. I know it looks like a gimmick, but I can see that this is going to be a big player in the whole bass fishing realm in the future. Now, before we talk a little bit about this bait, including kind of how to fish it, this video is brought to you by my apparel company, Fin Fishing. And right now over at Fin Fishing, I'm running a sale for the month of March and month of March only. If you buy a USA made sun shirt, which are one of the only ones made here in the US, or a pair of the new duck shorts, which are a lightweight, waterproof, very breathable pair of shorts, I think that they're the best fishing shorts ever, you are actually going to receive a Buzzer Rocks Blood Stop formula with your purchase. So this is a pretty cool product in itself. Most of us who have been fishing before, you have probably hooked a bass in the tongue or in the gill before, where you get them out of the water and they are gushing blood. And this actual formula is made to help stop that blood. So if a fish is, a little bit bloody, a lot of times you can just throw them back in the water. It's going to naturally clot up. They're going to be okay. But if they are gushing blood, like we've all been there, this is a product that can help save that fish. So whether you are fishing in a tournament or whether you are just fun fishing, maybe in a local pond, and you want to make sure the fish that you catch survive, this is a great little product to do so. So all you got to do, add a sun shirt or the shorts to cart, add the Blood Stop formula to cart, and you will see it automatically discounted at checkout. Shopping at Fin Fishing is truly the best way to help support this channel, and I greatly appreciate every single one of you who has done so. All right, let's talk a little bit more about this bait. And look, I know it looks absolutely insane. I know that a lot of guys are going to see this thing and they're going to be like, yeah, that's a gimmick. But if you guys have noticed, over the last really couple of years, these style of baits, really kind of starting a little bit more with like the fuzzy dice baits, have really grown in popularity. Now, you can actually go online, you can go on YouTube, you can see a lot of guys catching fish with these baits. I have not thrown this bait. I've thrown the fuzzy dice type baits quite a bit, caught a lot of fish on them, and this is actually going to be probably a two-part video where I'm actually going to take these baits out there on the water and obviously fish them. But these things are becoming very, very popular. And if you ask me, one of the reasons why is, one, it looks like nothing else that we've really seen, but also I kind of have this super stupid theory about silicone. And if you think of some of the best baits on the market, they have silicone skirts. I mean, chatterbaits, buzzbaits, jigs. Those baits are phenomenal baits, catch a lot of fish. And if you think about, if you've ever looked at a jig, if you cast a jig out there, you let that thing hit the bottom, the silicone doesn't lay on the bottom. It doesn't lay like you lay it down on your boat. It poofs up. You literally have jigs that just completely look like this under the water. And we know how well a jig works, especially at catching a lot of big bass. So now we have a bait that's more or less made to look like that. Now this bait, I want you guys to know, this thing is not cheap. These are pretty expensive baits. I think I purchased both of these. I think they were like $15 or $18. I kind of forget now, but the good thing about these baits is that they are elastic. They are the elastic material, so they're very durable. So as long as you don't lose the thing, you should be able to get a lot of fish catches out of this bait. But the biggest thing that a lot of, I think, anglers probably have the question about when it comes to this bait is, how do you fish it? And I think that is where you could go in a lot of different directions as to how to fish this bait. So first and foremost, let's talk about a few of those ways. Now, one way that you absolutely can fish this bait is as a topwater. Yeah, believe it or not, you could fish this as a topwater. Simply put a really big, almost wacky style hook in this thing, weightless. You're gonna cast that thing out and this thing is going to basically float on the surface. And so you just kind of work it across the surface. You can just kind of poof it along as it goes across the surface, and it is going to give the fish a completely weird, different action that they have never seen. And that's actually the way that I'm most excited to use this bait. I'm actually gonna talk about a way that I've been catching fish on the fuzzy dice here in a minute. But that's the way that when I get a chance to, it's really cold outside right now, so I'm going to be fishing it that way because I think that in a way, it could really almost be like a floating worm. You know, if you guys have ever fished the floating worm technique, this is a technique where you're basically fishing a plastic worm just below the surface of the water. And I think that you could work this bait very similar to that. Just below the surface of the water, they're gonna come up there and they're gonna snatch that thing. So that is a great way to do it. Now, again, this thing floats. So another way that you could work it is almost kind of on like a free rig. Putting it on a free rig, I think would be a great way to really kind of keep the bait off the bottom, but work the bait in general down on the bottom. And there's actually a lot of different, there's a couple of actually different hook manufacturers that have made specific hooks for this bait, and you can see that the ones that where it kind of is on the bottom, they look really unique as it just kind of comes along the bottom. The big thing here though is it's a little bit difficult of a bait to fish it super weedless. You know, if you're fishing a soft plastic on the bottom, you can text pose that hook where it's really kind of buried in it. There's no real good hook that is going to be completely buried in this thing where you're going to be able to get a good hook in the fish as well. You could kind of put it through basically the main section of this and stick it into one of these tentacles if you wanted to kind of keep it weedless. But again, hooking up with the fish is going to become an issue at that point. I've seen guys that simply literally just take an EWG and stick it through like a wacky rig on this thing, and that's how they fish it. But because it floats, it keeps that EWG off of the bottom, and it allows it to stay away from a lot of cover. I don't know how you would do this, but I'm going to experiment with Carolina rigging it. I think that that would be a really good way of fishing it because obviously, again, it's floating up. You put it on a Carolina rig with a 2, 3, 4 foot leader, it's gonna kind of hover there across the bottom, which I could see being really deadly for some bass. How I go about doing that, I'm not exactly sure. Like if I'm being honest with you, as far as what the hook is gonna look like with this bait. So that's something that I have to figure out. Now I do wanna talk a little bit about this is the big version of this bait, and they have a smaller version right here, which this kind of reminds me a little bit more about the size of like a dice, a fuzzy dice, which I've actually fished quite a bit now. And it's a really good way that catches fish. And if you fish for smallmouth in particularly, there's something about this bait that those smallmouth hate. They cannot stand, and they will come up there and eat it. Now, the way that I have worked the dice a lot in the past is I will put a bigger kind of wacky rig hook in it, and then I actually put a nail weight through it to kind of weight it down, because the dice is a very light bait. This is a little bit heavier of a bait, so you probably can cast it by itself, but I do like to work it subsurface. And so with that nail weight, it brings that bait down. And most of the time when I'm working it in that way, I'm using forward-facing sonar. I'm trying to cast it near cover or structure that I can see or fish and work it just above their head, kind of poofing it along. I just kind of pop it like this, and you will see fish that are just like, it's almost like you can tell that their personality is like, what is that? They never really crush it. I never see them all the time come up there and crush it. It's always like a curiosity thing that they just come up there and they just suck it down and go down, and you got them. So there's gonna be a number of different ways to fish this bait, and I know that it looks crazy, but I can see it being a really good bait. And hopefully I'll have a video here for you guys in a month or two catching a lot of fish with this, guys. So guys, I just wanted to show you guys this kind of newer bait. If you wanna pick some up, you can check out that Omnia link down below. And guys, I appreciate you watching. I will see you in the next one.